I am Brittany Gamble, Facilities and Software Consultant at Gilbane Building Company, and an ifmaKC membership chair. Thank you all for coming. I assume you are joining us today not because you've been practicing and perfecting over the past several years your COVID-19 return to work SOPs. This is new to all of us, and information is available is changing daily and by the moment. This is a pretty unique situation, and so I propose to the board we host a return to work roundtable because what I know about FMs, especially ifmaKC FMs, is we're really good at being a resource to one another and also supporting each other during times of need. The board approved, and with that approval, we put together this roundtable of resources. And the purpose of our roundtable today is not to provide solutions, but rather to get the conversation started. If you find what we discussed today helpful, we may have several roundtables. And also, I just wanted to let you know that we started a COVID-19 resource page on the ifmaKC website, and today's recording will be posted there. Also, if you have any resources or information you think should be shared with our fellow members, email them to us and we'll review them and hopefully get them posted. A couple housekeeping items. We started this roundtable in the middle of last week with little information and just some ideas, but the more as it's grown closer, we've been inundated with information. So our roundtable has almost turned into a presentation because there's so much information we want to share, which is good. But in the interest of time, we're going to wait until the end for questions and answers. But go ahead and use the chat to post questions while our panelists are speaking. So in the spirit of getting the conversation going, I'll turn this over to Jim to introduce himself and our other panelists. And again, thank you everyone for coming.
All right, thank you everybody. I really appreciate everybody's input. I'm Jim Wilkinson with Scott Rice and Image Flooring. I've just moved into a new role with our company and I'm vice president of our collective services. And that's a whole story in it of itself. So I'm gonna ask Bob and then Teresa if you would introduce yourselves.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bob Rodriguez. I'm with ACS and happy to be here to share some ideas and hear your ideas as well on where we move ahead as we hopefully get back into our buildings in a more normal flow of life.
Hi, I'm Teresa Reicheter, and I'm the senior facility construction manager at Garmin, and I appreciate the invitation, and I'm here to just kind of share some of what we're experiencing today at Garmin and how we're looking to reintegrate back onto our campus here in a relatively short period of time.
All right, Jonathan, are you up?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Jonathan, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, can everybody hear me okay?
May need to turn your volume up a little bit.
Look here. Weird.
Maybe we go ahead with Jason. And
Yeah, Jason, why don't you go ahead? Well, Jonathan.
Sure. Hey, my name is Jason Kaiser. I'm with Q4 Industries. We're a janitorial supply firm. I'm also very happy to be here, just as everyone else, to share my expertise, if any of us have any expertise in this type of whole wildness, but happy to be here and share.
Jonathan, are you there? Is Katie on? All right. Well, Jonathan, as you get things working, just go ahead and interrupt whenever you have the chance, and we'll make sure that you're on for your slides are quite a ways down in the presentation, so I think we'll have time. So thank you everybody for being here again. We've got a great group of people, and I'm excited to kind of just lead this. Again, I'm not an expert in this field, and 2 weeks ago when I was asked to kind of spearhead our Get Back to Work plan, I knew virtually nothing, and there was not a lot of information available out there in the market 2 weeks ago, and today there is so much that it absolutely makes your head swim. So there's so many ways that we can organize this presentation, and what I thought I'd do is just build it based on how I did the research to find out things. Ultimately, when we get done, we're going to organize our Back to Work plan by area of concern, and that's what we'll be presenting tomorrow. We do have it finished, and we'll presenting to our team tomorrow morning in a town hall meeting. We'll organize it by office reentry, facility updates, and so forth. There are so many great plans out there. Like I said, Steelcase has one that's organized around now, near, and far. And that was kind of exciting to me because as I did this research, there's so many things that we got to do now, but then when things change, like we have testing more readily available, or workplace functions change, then maybe we move to the near, and then maybe there's long-term solutions for not just COVID-19, but other viruses and things, and they discuss that in their portion called FAR. Cushman Wakefield has an excellent recovery readiness guide, and they offer it with a safe six, they call it, and prepare the building, prepare workforce, control access, create social distancing, reduce points to increase cleaning, and then communicate. Communicate is something that we've been doing a lot of in our company, and this guide from Cushman Wakefield I thought was very good. But again, there's a lot of them out there, and I just encourage you to go search for them. These will all be on our website, as Brittany mentioned. So we decided to organize ours by the hierarchy controls from OSHA. And I know Janet Lockridge, I think Janet's on, but she talked about that a little bit last week in her presentation. There is a guide from OSHA called the Guidance on Preparing Workplaces for COVID-19. The beauty of the hierarchy of controls, especially if you're starting out from scratch, is it really sends you down a path of working with the most effective things first and then to the least effective. And an example of this would be is if a vaccination came out tomorrow, well, we wouldn't need this presentation, would we? So obviously that's not the case. And so we're going to move through this control, our hierarchy controls that is kind of OSHA's standard outline for attacking any kind of problem. First, we're going to start out with engineering controls, and that's the physical environment, and anything you can do in the physical environment that you can do is obviously at the higher part of that pyramid. So I'll turn it over to Bob and let him talk about that.
Good afternoon, everyone. At ACS, we're a smart building systems company, and we have a lot of high-tech solutions for buildings. But in this conversation, if you want to call it low-tech, the nuts and bolts, nitty-gritty part of our buildings is probably where the vast majority of improvement and change can come. And as we move into this new paradigm today of doing business, but also that paradigm shifts into how we control and manage our buildings and what those priorities are. And up in the past, the big focus has been energy efficiency and cost control, closing up the building envelope so you don't waste any heat out, minimizing outside air so you don't have to overheat, reheat, recool outside air, and keep that recirculated air in the building. And only using outside air for free cooling when the conditions are right, which means mostly our buildings are in minimum outside air. As well as put in that situation the fact that we have lots of different finishes, paints, carpets, cleaners, all kinds of finishes that off-gas and can in some cases create some toxic chemical off-gassing as well as odors. and can keep moisture in the building, which although helps the building be energy efficient and low cost, doesn't necessarily provide itself for a healthier building. So as we move ahead, this is a new priority of a healthier building, in which a big focus of that is air quality. And what I'm going to present here is from ASHRAE, IFMA, and BOMA standards that you can research and look up a lot of different standards. And as I go through here, recommend, since we're going to be talking about HVAC things, everyone I know has an HVAC expert, whether that's in-house people, whether that's a subcontractor, vendor, or a consultant. Take advantage of your HVAC expert as we move ahead, and keep in mind that some potential solutions aren't necessarily going to be as energy efficient as in the past. So what I've got to present is 5 low cost and no cost action items that you can implement moving ahead, so that you can take charge of your building to create a healthier environment for all your occupants. And the first one is probably something you're already doing, is have regular maintenance of your HVAC units or the rooftop splits, whatever it may be. You're probably doing this, but a couple areas to focus on is, number one, some of us may not pay attention that your HVAC unit can be a breeding ground for contaminants, viruses, molds, that kind of thing. And a specific place to look at would be, make sure and look at your mixed air section of your units and your condensate air of your units. Make sure your mixed air section gets cleaned, your condensate gets cleaned, filters get changed, that you clean and flush the condensate drain, and that you use biocide tablets in the condensate pan. You may already be doing this. It may be just pick a little bit of more focus in that area. And sometimes adding biocide tablets is not a big deal to add for your vendor. Just keep in mind, in that mixing box area of your units, the air is at its slowest velocity, and that has a tendency for any particles in there to fall, as well as there's a lot of moisture and condensate there, which makes particles stick. So a good thing to make sure that the unit's clean and that your condensate is flushed out so you can rid anything that's in there, as well as biocide tablets to help disinfect and kill anything that might be in there. So that's the first one, just a recommendation. Number 2 is into air quality sensing. There are lots of sensors. A lot of us know about CO monitors and CO2 sensors, but there are a variety of air quality sensors that measure all kinds of different things, including volatile organic compounds, of which some of these are, and you can sense and provide notification of that. A good key is also the fact that CO2 sensing can be an indication of a congested area or a high occupancy concentrated area. People generate CO2, so if you have in areas, it could help you kind of get an idea of where you have high concentrations of people where there's CO2, for example. The third thing kind of fits off that is demand ventilation, outside air ventilation based on that indoor air quality. Flooding the building with fresh air when CO2 gets up, or your air quality sensor shows a problem level. Fresh air is great to flood through, to dilute airborne contaminants, reduce disease transmission, and reduce the possibility of infections is a big thing. The other thing to keep in mind, I mentioned cleaning and chemicals before. A lot of the cleaning that we do generates chemicals and moistures in the space, and most people do their cleaning at night or when the building's closed. And a lot of our buildings have been closed for quite a few weeks, and a lot of our buildings have had a lot of cleaning and maintenance done while that's closed. Well, there's potentially a lot of moisture and a lot of chemicals in the air in the space. And so in addition is post-cleaning forced ventilation to flush out those odors, those chemicals, that off-gassing, as well as when you do that with cooling, you can dehumidify the air, get rid of moisture that may be in the air. So that's the third one. Jump onto the fourth one, is improved filtration. Most units use 30% filters. Well, moving up to a MERV 13 or higher filter will capture 80%, including viral particles that are airborne in your HVAC unit to capture those particles. Again, utilize an expert, because in some cases, increasing filtration can affect the airflow within your HVAC unit. So you want to make sure your experts get that covered away as you increase filtration, that your fan speed and that stuff is handled properly so that you can take advantage of that filtration, but still have good airflow across your unit. The last one is humidity control. Viruses survive better at low humidities, mold survives better at higher humidities. So control your humidity, which in a decent range, about 40–60%, can help minimize both of those situations for you. Those are the 5. Last thing I'll mention are a couple of little more expensive options. A lot of people have heard about it, talked about it. UV radiation light in the condensate area to provide UV radiation to kill anything that might be in the HVAC unit's mixing box, drain pan area. Again, another one is an ozone emitter in the duct stream that actually generates ozone in the airflow. Ozone kills everything and also attracts things and makes them drop so they don't filter through the system. Both of those are a little more expensive to provide, partly because they have to be custom made and sized for that particular unit, that HVAC unit, as well as they do require additional maintenance. And because UV light as well as ozone is a toxic item, you're presenting in your building a potential hazard, not to the building, but to your technicians who service and manage that. So that's a consideration to consider if you consider one of those options. In summary, you can take charge of your building. Again, we're in a new paradigm, and you'll have to work with your decision makers. I know the focus on ROI in your facilities, that everybody wants costs down, is a little change, that we're not just looking at energy efficiency or cost control, but comfort and health of the building. Look to ASHRAE standards, and I know all of you have an expert in your facility, whether it's a vendor, internal in-house person, or consultant, to make sure you work that properly with your building and move ahead. And I'll look forward to any questions after this is over from anyone.
All right, thanks, Bob. That was excellent. Just wanted to run through a few more engineering controls. Some of these might be pretty apparent to people, but these are just a few of the things we've done in our facility. Changed faucets, hands-free, the ice maker, went to automated receptacles, foot access for doors. We also are creating zones and just making sure that people belong in the zone that they are supposed to be in. You know, the office is a human experience, and we don't want to lose that. But with these zones, it will allow us to, you know, make people go to their area when they are working in their area. They can stay there. If they are going to meet other people, obviously that's great. But through ingress and egress traffic flow patterns, we can keep people from just wandering through and being in your space when you don't want somebody in your space. We're doing it with a floor plan. This has been updated from this time, but basically the red area is our public area, and the other colors right around the red are areas that we can access the common zones directly without going through other areas. And then our warehouse area is a separate zone, and those have separate offices, and they enter from exterior points. That's also just entering the building. We're trying to keep that from a minimum and going directly to your own workspace. Teresa, I'm going to turn it over to you for your reintegration planning.
Okay, so along with all of this, this is just an area that we really focusing on kind of the social distancing. How do we get people back into the building, and how do we get them separated physically? So we've been, over the last couple weeks, have been going through and evaluating all of our floor plans and taking a look at our staff layouts. We have all of our buildings here on campus and a couple other ones here in town in our CAFM system. And so we've been able to jump into our CAFM system, know where everybody is, understand the occupancy of each of the floors. So we have we have looked and have evaluated each of the floors as they are today, and then developed a set of guidelines where we would evaluate where areas were too congested or where social distancing would be difficult. And I've got some plans here further up that I'll kind of walk through with you what we've been really looking at as far as details. So each of our groups, our segment leads, our vice presidents, they have been working and they've been tasked with from management, from our executives teams, to look at their staffing and determine how do we get back to the office? How does their teams get back to the office? Currently today, Garmin, our warehouse and distribution center, it is almost at as far as capacity, as far as our working staff. That was deemed as an essential business because we do supply to the aviation, and it is our aviation manufacturing facility, and it's everything coming into the United States in our distribution center. So the rest of the campus, we probably have about 4,000 on campus, but today we are probably hovering at about 600 to 800 people on campus, and we are looking to reintegrate back onto our campus starting May the 18th, Monday, May the 18th. So they've got plans. They've been submitted to us, and we just got them back last night, and we're going to be reviewing those, and I'll walk through some of the process that we're going to be working with the teams on. Some of the things that we've looked at in this, we've looked at how we could physically divide space. What's interesting at Garmin, and there are a lot of companies out there, workstations were the future, and we have actually minimal amount of workstations. We mostly have our engineering staff in offices, whether it's a single office, a dual office, a 4-man, a 6-man office, and so understanding how we can populate those, or how we may be able to provide some type of divided space, definitely at reception and help desks. We're also looking at each of our floors and understanding, how you get through the floors, how you get up and down into the building, the elevators, and making recommendations for stairs. We've looked at our conference rooms, and we've got numerous conference rooms closed, and really recommending the Skyping and the Teams. Which Teams is what the direction that Garmin is going forward with. And then working closely with our cafe food service to totally change that program where there were lines out the door ordering food. They are quickly working to develop plans for an at your desk order and pickup, and converting our break area, our cafe dining area space, as mostly just a pickup, A through M, N through whatever. And you stand in a line and pick up your food, and then you go back to your desk, and or limited locations that we have in the building. So this is one of our floors. This is actually our 5th floor in our building. And what was really challenging with Garmin is we are in the process of, many of you know, we're under construction. Next phase 2 of our master plan, building 3. And we have very much developed a standard office typical going forward. What we have today in our tower and our current buildings on site is very atypical. We have over 70 standard workstation offices, which isn't really a standard at all. And so we've started looking at each of our plates, and we have to look at them individually separate. We started to go with an idea of wayfinding, or where you could go down hallways one direction, and then that, when we started looking at the overlay on that, it was like, that's not going to be possible. Everyone's going to have to carry a map of the entire HQ, every floor, and they're going to be looking heads down at their map to know, and there's going to be a sign everywhere, a sign. So what we've done on these plans, we've highlighted in red areas of concern. We have workbenches where workbenches are put in there tightly. So in workbenches and where we do have workstations, we've highlighted and are recommending more of a 50% occupancy as a minimum. Did I say that right? 50% as a maximum located in that space, but we would prefer a minimum. So these are minimum standards. We've basically cut our conference rooms in half, physically removing chairs, and then are recommending, on the next slide, it'll show you each floor plan. Because of the different standards, we had to look at a typical office, and here on this particular floor, there are 3-man offices, and there's 2-person offices, and then there's a lot of workbenches. And so we were actually going in and looking at the distances of how people could actually sit and locate themselves. And in a 3-man, the most we could do is a two-person, and we are really, for social distance, but we are really in this first phase, we're looking to even do less than that. On the next slide. So with, we created these plans, and we've sent those out to all of our leads. And with that, we are, as mentioned, we're looking at conference rooms where we've noted on these plans that these are the additional things that we're going to be looking at for each of the floors and throughout the company. And we'll talk more about some of these. Hand sanitizer stations, the bathroom upgrades. Right now we're in the process of replacing everything to make it touchless in restrooms. We are going to be recommending cloth masks, especially when you're at a space in the building where it's not truly possible to be socially distanced. And even something simple as just you don't allow to talk in elevators. We're looking at two people in elevators, but when you have 1,700 folks that actually can reside on a floor, then elevators 2 per person is going to be tough. And we are recommending stairs. So once each of them received their plans, they looked at what a capacity on the floor might be, 270, and we at the maximum we would recommend much smaller than that. Here we can go to the next slide, and what came back to us, and again we just received those yesterday. They've been working on them, and they've been tasked as we've been working behind the scenes. They have taken each one of their plans, and here let me see if I can move this over so I can see that. So on this particular plan, in this particular group, we have a capacity initially, CAFM tells us that we could have sat over 200 people. This group has 148 people that they would like to get on campus. And we have asked them to look at a phased approach. The first phase, for the most part, beginning May the 18th. This group has a need. They have workers that simply cannot get done what they need to do at home. They have their tech benches. They have labs that they actually have to work on site. And so we're actually working to get many of them on site immediately. But right now the floors are almost empty, so that's great. They're in a great position. So the first phase of this particular group, they're looking at phase 1 in a now versus start May 18th. And then the next group, what is that timeline? When do they bring the next group? And you can see here their planned approach as far as who they're bringing back and where and when, interns that we have coming in until we get to that count. On the next slide, what they've done is taken that information and we've provided them the blank floor plans, and our management has actually tasked each of them, challenged each of them to lay out their floors. Now we're going to be working with them. We're going to be some groups that have come back and they said we need 100% day 1. Well, that affects everybody else, and 100% doesn't work for us. Some groups have 25% coming back. That's great. So we may have to give some space to someone else. In this current phase where they're stating that engineers and these groups need to be on site as quickly as possible. We're not going to get them on site until actually next week because we have a group sitting here in the process of moving out of the building. So here's their first phase showing 41 people and basically in one-person offices. The next slide shows now they're at 61 persons by that May 18th date. And that date will then go through June the 8th. And it shows one-person offices and two-person offices. Then the next phase after that, that goes into July, gets them the 104 out of 148 persons. Still a lot of one-person offices, and those one-person offices today, they are outfitted as two-person and or three-person offices. The next slide then is the phase 3, and this gets them there for the most part, 148 of their people, 99% of the people back onto campus. In this particular group, for the most part, they're saying they need to work on campus. There's that small percentage that still will be a work from home. We have offered up the concept of hoteling, of staggering work hours, of shift work, and each of the different groups are considering that, but it is up to them to tell us how they can work, and then for the facility team to then work with each group and figure out how to make that happen. And we're tracking all of this with the various groups across the campus.
Awesome. Thank you, Teresa. I think that's excellent, and appreciate you sharing what you guys are working on. I'm just going to quickly go through a couple other engineering controls, physical separation. You guys will see millions upon millions of options in these areas, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but glass dividers and curtains and, you know, all the kinds of things. Just get with your the people that you work with for your furniture, and they've got great plans out there and great products available for those cases where you have to actually create separation. Jonathan, are you on?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I called in my phone. My computer's acting up today, but appreciate you guys letting me join Jonathan Smith. I'm the business development manager for Siemens here in Kansas City. And some of the things I was going to talk about today was you have a lot of sensors in the building. There's a lot of things that people touch on a daily basis, whether it's a simple light switch, an iPad to control a conference room for scheduling, or the thermostat in the space to heat and cool. So what we've been looking at is we have a lot of different ways that we can approach this, but one of the biggest things is the map that you just saw in the previous slide. There's a way now that you can monitor how people move throughout the space. And you see the red spots that you see on the slide are where they are, more people congregate over time. And then obviously the lighter shades of colors is where there are less people. So you can see how people are interacting throughout the space and adjust accordingly. So when it comes to social distancing, you'll know what do we need to make an adjustment, where we definitely are making our 6-foot rule between people. And this is simply just basically turning the ceiling grid into a digital ceiling grid. This also, you can also go as far as each employee has a badge. You can put a low voltage Bluetooth emitter in the badge, and now you know exactly where everybody is throughout the space, whether it's just the employee number or you can put their name on it. But now you know it's got like a 3 or 5 second delay. You know exactly where they are if they're not abiding by the guidelines. You can set it up to where if there's too many people in a space, they're too close together, you can send out an alert to a manager or someone within management that can go to that location and say, hey guys, you need to split up a little bit, kind of thing. So that's just one of the things we're looking at. Another thing is, you know, I mentioned there's a lot of people that touch the thermostat in a given day, or if you just have light switches on the wall to controlling your lights and they're not, you don't have the controls. There's ways that you can schedule those things to where you don't have to touch them. You can do it with mobile devices, your phone, your iPad, from your laptop. You can turn the lights on and off at your cube in your room. Using Garmin, for example, they're all a whole bunch of offices. You can do it from there without having to touch anything. You can schedule your conference rooms. Most people do that already through something like, you know, through a Microsoft application or something like that. But and then the temperature in the space. You have the capability to change the temperature in the space, whether it's the end user, the person sitting in that room, or from the facility standpoint, they can do it remotely via an iPad or from their desktop computer and work the whole floor. Same thing with the lights. So those are some of the things that we're kind of looking at with different people, trying to give them ideas on how you can eliminate the amount of times people physically touch these devices, so they don't have to touch them at all anymore. It also gives them a lot more capability to do other things. But that's kind of the biggest thing. And, you know, being able to know where people are and how far apart they are, and being able to judge your space to see, are we actually abiding by that social distancing platform, the 6 feet rule that we're all talking about, or do we need to adjust what our initial plan was? And that's all done through sensors throughout the space.
Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan. And I understand you're a new father?
Yes, I was hoping that nobody could hear the 20-day-old infant in the background. So it's nothing like having a baby in the middle of a pandemic. Let me tell you, it's a whole different experience.
Well, congratulations, and thanks for joining us today.
No problem. Thank you.
So another thing in our plan was just posters and emails and education on you know, what's in various marketing departments of various companies have been working on things like that. We have posters and, you know, 30 days to slow the spread, which is, by the way, I guess up today, but so I don't know. But the CDC guidelines of washing your hands and all the things that we're all very familiar with, we will be posting those. How many people can be in a conference room? All those things get posted at our location. Again, and under administrative controls, we've moved from the physical building really to administrative controls. And these are all the things that you guys are very familiar with. I'm not going to go through them. The websites and everything are on this presentation, and you'll have access to it. So the CDC offers a lot of great information that can help you when workers show up. We did have somebody show up. They called in and said that they had been in contact with somebody that tested positive, and we had our procedure. They went to the doctor and got tested, and today a day later, actually, they came up negative. So we were excited about that. We're strongly considering masks, and right now we are saying that if you're going to work from home, you can either work from home, or if you're going to be in the office, and while you're walking around in the office, you need to wear a mask, or if you're going to common areas, you need to wear a mask. But when you're at your workspace, you don't have to in our case. But this is going to be specific to everybody, this company and their own conditions. We're also encouraging face-to-face meetings, and then again, the CDC has underlying health condition guidelines that that's the website location of that. Under administrative controls, keeping up to date is like almost impossible. You've got to read a lot and watch the news and everything. But like yesterday, Kansas City, Missouri came out with a 10-10-10 rule, 10% building occupancy, 10 people or whichever is greater, and then sign-ins for anybody that's in there more than 10 minutes. In our case, in a lot of cases, I know you all have security where everybody's signed in. But just keep track of what's going on. We're going to keep track of temperatures, and we're working with our HR department right now. Initially, we thought we would take everybody's temperature and they would answer this series of questions, which we probably still will do. But we were going to actually keep that on a spreadsheet and see who answered what and all that. And due to HIPAA regulations and everything, we are going to just do it. And if they pass the questions, then they can stay in the office. So avoid large group meetings, physical distance. Again, it's a lot of the things that you guys hear a lot about. And then again, if we have a procedure, if we do have somebody that comes up with the testing a positive, or if their temperature is high, we've got a series of protocols that we follow to deal with that. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Jason.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. So over the last 10 to 15 years or so, probably even longer, when facility budgets have been reduced or cut down, traditionally one of the first things to go has been janitorial work. You're reduced to just a trash and dash, some light dusting, spot cleaning here and there. Everyone knows what that looks like. That is no longer going to be acceptable in our new world. The frontline workers that are cleaning your buildings are going to play an integral role in keeping your facilities clean and your workers healthy. So there's going to be new plans and new procedures involved. Expect changes from your service contractors and work with them. Embrace some of those changes. If you have questions, ask why. And my company is working with several cleaning companies to kind of provide a bulletproof plan of services on what to do, how to do it, and the practices we're going to use. Is it going to be perfect? No, but it's the process that we're rolling out right now. Some of the things that are going into our planning are on the slide here. Why do we clean? We clean to protect health, plain and simple. That's the definition of cleaning. So we've got to look at everything we do and evaluate it. So let's look at all of our services. All your countertops and fixtures and your chairs, there has to be a plan put in place for all of those. Who's going to clean them? What are they going to clean them with? What's the cleaning schedule? Small things, push bars and elevator buttons, all those services need to be evaluated and think about and be thought about. Same thing with common areas, as my colleagues have gone into a little bit of detail leading up to this point. Are we going to remove some fixtures or chairs to discourage congregations and crowds? What are we going to do in the restrooms? Is there going to be a sign in, a sign out? How are we going to do that? When we're also cleaning, we need to talk about our tools and processes. And this is probably the biggest one that I want everybody to really embrace and understand. Let's start with your disinfectants. If you are not familiar at this point with List N, you need to get a book. List N is the disinfectant list the EPA put together of chemicals that will kill the coronavirus. There are a lot of sanitizers out there. There's a lot of stuff out there that are awesome cleaners, but they're not going to kill this stuff. So I would encourage everyone to start there. The other piece of the disinfectant on List N is most of them have 10-minute kill claims. If you understand kill claims, you know that a surface must be cleaned and then must remain wet for 10 minutes. Keeping any surface wet for 10 minutes in a well-ventilated building, in any building, anywhere, is very, very difficult. So it's something you need to be aware of. And there are solutions out there. There are companies like mine and some others out there that do have 5-minute kill claims on these things. So it's products that you need to be aware of when you're looking at your closet and seeing what you have in there to battle this. Another key point is HEPA filtration. HEPA filtration in your vacuums. The weave in a HEPA is tight enough to trap coronavirus. So because our carpet is the largest air filter in your building, we want to make sure that that thing is clean, that our carpets are clean, our rugs are clean. So if you've just got some old style vacuums, if you want to be cognizant about what you're cleaning, we might need to step up our game a little bit and look to some HEPA filtration. Also, string mops. If you are allowing your staff or your contractors to clean your buildings with string mops, you are part of the problem. String mops do nothing but spread dirt around. They are not transfer tools. So, just slopping a mop around the bathroom floor isn't going to cut it. Maybe it did before, but if your people are serious about their health and serious about cleaning, it's not okay. If you want to remove contaminants from your floors, you need microfiber mops or scrubbers. Because let's just remember with this, that everything falls to the floor. When we cough, when the toilet sneezes after we flush it, everything that doesn't get tracked, it goes right to the floor. And we track that in and out of our homes, in and out of our offices. So I want everybody to be cognizant of that. Also, ATP testing. ATP is a method of testing surfaces to find out how much contaminant is on a surface. They use this in food service. We did this at an IFMA Roundtable last year. I have several my customers that are asking for this product, and it can test how contaminated a surface is with a quick swab of a little solution. So if you're interested in that, it's something you can look into. but really planning for cleaning throughout your day. As we talked about chairs and tables and conference rooms, who's going to clean those things? Is it going to be on each individual worker to do their own cleaning in their personal area? Is it going to be on your day porter from your contract crew? Or is it going to be a combination of both? But you really need to plan and have something put together so we're all not looking at one another. And also working with your contract crews on your nightly disinfectant plan. Sanitizing and vacuuming and spot cleaning is great and pulling our trash, but we need to be aware of our current climate, and mass disinfection is a good idea. And using a proper chemical to do those things is only going to help you in the long run. And you threw a couple of extra things in here and they have been discussed, but absolutely installing touch-free fixtures when possible, when they're applicable. It might not be available for everyone now. It might be 6 months down the road before we're all caught up, but nobody's going to want to touch anything when we get back at all. So even going to the bathroom is going to be challenging for some folks. So work with your providers, work with the folks you work with, step outside and see what else is out there that you don't have. And real quick, we've gone through this ad nauseum, but PPE for returning to work. One of the biggest issues I see is determining who needs what. We can't just put a box of 1,000 surgical style masks at the front of the office and say, here, take what you need. Because office staff are going to be secluded. They're going to be in their office. Mailroom's going to come into touch with a lot of different people, delivery drivers, all the UPS and the FedEx folks. They're going to have different needs. So flip down shields and, bunny suits might be applicable for that, might be appropriate. So just go through each part of your building and make sure everybody has their the appropriate stuff that they need. And we've kind of gone through everything here. Flip down face shields, all the masks and sanitizers. Like we've talked about it quite a bit, but I guess we've talked about them a lot because they're really, really important. So make sure that you've got these ideas and you've got plans for your facilities.
All right. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate everyone's input. I think there's some great things that you've been able to cover, and I hope that's been helpful for our group. I just wanted to remind everybody, but the IFMA website does have the tab that Brittany talked about, the COVID-19 resources, and everything that we talked about today on here is on that website. And with that, I will open it up to a discussion. We've got about 10 minutes left at this time. I was hopeful we'd have a little bit more than that, but do we have any questions? And does somebody want to start things out?
So far, our questions have been to wish Carol a happy birthday. So let's make sure we do that.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, and
It's not my birthday.
Oh.
Oops,
I know
I don't know where that, yeah, not my birthday.
Julie's was last week. Maybe they're confused.
Yeah, Julie's birthday.
So anyone who has questions, you can unmute or type in a question. Maybe no questions means we did a good job. Again, everything that we presented today is going to be on the IFMA COVID, what are the ifmaKC's COVID-19 page, which we noted on the previous slide. Also, Janet's presentation last our April program meeting, her presentation has been posted there too. And we're taking, if you have resources or products or special information you want to share with your IFMA members, email us and we'll take a look at it and hopefully get it posted. No questions or comments?
Does anybody have any other things that they're doing that would be beneficial for the group?
That'd be great to share.
Everybody shy today?
Mute button is stuck.
I think Becky has a question in the chats for Jim.
Okay, I'm not sure I know how to get to the chats, but
Is asking Jim, what steps are your crews taking when going to another site? Oh, that's a good question.
yeah, so we've been, being that we have construction component to our business, we have been still working through the last 6 weeks. And we did develop a precautions and followed the Builders Association guidelines. But we only travel now with one person in a truck. We deliver materials to the dock. We are wearing masks unless we're in an individual work setting. We've organized our teams into teams of 2 so that if somebody did get sick, they would only get their partner sick and not our entire workforce. So in a nutshell, those are some of the things that we're doing. And I do have that plan as well. If anyone's interested, I'm more than happy to share what we're doing in detail. We are providing the PPE. Of course, one of the early times that we went through the OSHA hierarchy of controls was on silica dust training, and in order to keep silica dust when we're grinding floors, for an example, keep it down. One of the best things we can do is provide water and grind with water, and then we don't have to wear any PPE or those sort of things. So we're addressing every situation very specifically. In healthcare, we do have 6 people which are infection control risk analysis certified, and we can create negative air environments. We have negative air equipment. In those cases, there's a lot heavier qualifications and requirements for PPE, and there's anti-rooms and airlocks and all kinds of things. But depending on the situation, we can gear the plan toward any specific requirement. Thanks, Becky.
Jim, there's another question too from Nathan Guffey asking Garmin what they used to develop their detailed plans.
So at Garmin, we hired a security safety director here. Gosh, it's been a couple of years ago, Teresa Bench. She and her EHS, environmental health safety, and moved from under me with the new construction projects and the master plan coming on board. And so Teresa Bench has been running that group. They pulled together a crisis management team, which consists of our executives and her team, and she pulls in myself as well as our facility manager, Kelly Rockman, for some discussions, but we're not necessarily on the group. They have been most information through the CDC. They also have been working and with various groups, organizations, and here local companies, talking with Burns McDonnell. Numerous groups from around the city, crisis management teams coming together for an ongoing weekly meets and discussing best practices and what other groups are doing and sharing information. So multiple resources, and what we have found that some of the things that some groups are doing, it just isn't going to work for Garmin, or maybe some of the things that we're doing just isn't going to work just because of cultures and how we were laid out. But the CDC, for the most part, abiding by that. And I do notice that where our stay-at-home orders are coming to a close here, Johnson County then extended theirs till, I believe, the 11th. It just came up today. And we were going to, whatever the greatest distance out, Garmin was going to abide by that. And we went ahead and selected the 18th just to make sure that we were properly prepared to bring people back.
Thanks, Teresa. There was one more question. How or are folks sanitizing masks? I don't know if that's a question for Jason or probably anyone. Is Jason still on?
My customers have been using just ultraviolet lights when available. but that's not everybody has that available.
So Jason, doesn't that also depend on the type of mask, fabric mask? That a lot of companies, like we plan to supply fabric masks to our associates, and then they are to take that and they can bring it home, wash it, and then come back. Versus if you have a filtered mask that really potentially couldn't be reused, UV light helps with that as well as others.
Correct. Say this is what we're providing to a lot of our customers. This is what I've been allowed to come back to the office. This is what I have to wear in common areas, the surgical style. With the cloth, that's exactly right. Washing them, being cognizant of what you're doing with it. Really, you know, there's some people that adhere to the school of once I leave my office, it stays in my car. I don't want to go into public places with it when I come back to the office. So it really depends on what makes the person feel comfortable. But when sanitizing, it's not happening with these. It just depends, like you said, with the filters, that'll work. But there aren't too many options for a lot of us.
I know there is a company in Lenexa called HEPACART, and we work with them on anti-rooms and creating barriers in the healthcare environment for negative air and that sort of thing. But they have a piece of equipment that we use for our tools, and it is a light chamber, and we can put our tools in it, and the UV light disinfects it. It's probably not appropriate because it's not tested for masks, but I did want to bring it up because if you do have items that you disinfect in that manner, there's a local company that manufactures the equipment.
So also what we're finding, you know, so many people are actually misusing masks. And so our group has put out through our EHS team and under Teresa, they've actually did a video showing how to properly put on a mask, how to properly put on and remove gloves, and how to actually utilize a mask. If you put it down below the nose, you've seen a lot of people, this is really scary, on interviews on the news, they throw their mask, put it up over their head, and then they pull it back down. Well, they've contaminated, and you can't do that. And so if you truly want that mask to be effective, it has to be properly not handled, so per se.
Jason, I'm sorry, Teresa.
No, go
Are
ahead.
there any suggestions for, I've had this and I've had friends that have had this, that for people that wear glasses, as soon as you put the mask on, the glasses fog up, but yet the higher end masks are not available to everybody. Do you have any familiarity or any suggestions for this? I work at home, I mean, even every day, but just going out when the time comes.
Well, you said it. I mean, it's supply and demand right now. Its demand is so crazy high for the respirator styles. Then a lot of that has just skipped distribution. The manufacturers have gone straight into healthcare. So a lot of the options that would normally be around, we're not even seeing. So I mean, this is what's available in abundance right now. In 2 weeks, that could very well change. But I don't have a great solution to that problem.
I did have, my wife wears glasses and found something about washing your glasses in soap and letting it dry. And I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Yeah, maybe so. I know as scuba divers, we're supposed to spit in our mask that keeps it from clogging up. I don't know if that works for glasses.
Right.
I've not tried
I don't
that.
know how good that would be on
I'm
at
sure
work.
that's COVID good.
It does not work for
Yeah.
glasses.
When people start spitting, you need to clear it.
Bad idea. They also have a little spray that you can use. Maybe we should get some of that.
That doesn't work either. I mean, I've tried a lot of things, and I just want to be able to keep the mask on, but it makes it hard to see. I was just
Yeah.
wondering if anybody had.
I have an N95 mask, and it makes my glasses fog up more than any of the other ones. So I don't know what to do.
Jenny, I saw a post. I have not tried it, but again, washing your glasses with shaving cream. I haven't tried it, but so for what it's worth.
I will try it.
Keep
Thank
in
you.
touch, try that, and get back with us, and we'll post that if that works.
I will. I'm actually going to do it today. I'm headed to Target after a bit, so I'll try it today. Thank you.
All right, Brittany, do you see any other
I think we're good, and it's 1:02, so we did pretty well.
Yeah. All right, everyone. I really appreciate everyone's efforts and the people that put time into putting this together. You, Brittany, Rose, thanks for organizing this, and all those who attended. So have a great day, and let us know. Anybody that's on the call is more than willing to help in any area that you want to help development of a plan, or just help in any of the areas that we all kind of discussed. So reach out to us and go to the website.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Okay.